My colleague Kieran Gilbert is here in the studio as well. So, Kieran, it does feed into the budget. I mean, the government would have known there was going to be inflationary pressure, but just in case they were sort of maybe waiting on some big spending decisions to see should we go ahead with this or not. 7% inflation is it's a pretty big sort of elephant in the room.
Yeah, well, I think Ross used that word stubborn. That's the word for this CPI, and it's the backdrop for everything right now, including the budget. And today we see this letter calling on the government to increase JobSeeker. There's pressure to increase and return to fix what many in Labor believe was a mistake by Julia Gillard all those years ago in reducing the single parenting payment. So this pressure to put more money back in to people's pockets at a time when inflation remains stubborn. And then the backdrop for the budget next week, in a couple of weeks, I should say, is that May meeting of the RBA board, Tom, which is just a few days before Jim Chalmers' second budget, and the possibility that they would raise rates again on the eve of that budget. So in a way, it's difficult news for the government to try and grapple with, but also I think you'll hear from Jim Chalmers at 12:30 continue that message about being responsible, about not putting too much pressure on the inflationary environment we sit in right now. And I guess it gives him some sort of alibi against the increases that people are demanding for things like JobSeeker.
I think that is a good point politically, at least an alibi maybe until the next budget, that he might have to give different reasons if he doesn't want to give some of these big increases to various payments. But for now, he'll have a lot of backing to say whatever we might be doing down the path, whatever payments we think need to be fairer or more, something that people can survive on, we just cannot do it now.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the point, is many people would want to be more generous, to improve the fairness of our social welfare and safety net of the JobSeeker, which is very low. And even John Howard and Chris Richardson, respected economists, saying that this needs to raise. Right now, though, is at the time when you've got those inflationary pressures. We're going to look at a lot of that this afternoon, throughout the afternoon, with a few of those economists in question. But that's the environment with which Jim Chalmers is going to deliver that second budget. And we get that political pressure on the one hand, yes, they've got to do something, but on the other, are they just going to exacerbate the RBA's woes right now in terms of that rate-raising cycle? We saw 10 in a row, pause in April. Is that going to change on the 2nd of May?
Ross, what's your big prediction on that from this figure today? Now, I know we're very close to market expectations, but perhaps you're swimming against the tide. I'm not sure. That seemed to be that there'd be another pause, but there'd be certainly a temptation, you'd think, from the RBA, given we've still got a 7 there in front of inflation.
A couple of things to pick up here. One is that there is inflation built into our system ongoing. In other words, normally if prices stabilise, inflation comes out of the system. But think about the wage claims that are there right now to the Fair Work Commission. The government is saying it wants wage rises for the low paid and also for those on award wages of inflation. That's 7%. We can see it here today. The second thing is the ACTU going even harder than that. Then on top of that, you've got oil prices. Remember that as a result of OPEC cutting production, oil prices have jumped from $70 to $80 a barrel. Now, that's happened since this inflation rate has come out. And so that again has put pressure on petrol prices, on energy prices here in Australia. So all of these things are inflation that is built into the system that is still to come. And so this is the big issue about wage claims. If there is cost of living relief in the budget, my sense is it is going to be one-off cost of living relief. The government will take it year to year to see how it does this, because it does not want to embed in the budget significant amounts of spending that really is going to take many decades to be got rid of.
Kieran, your final thoughts. I mean, annual gas, I'll just note, inflation, 26.2%.
Yeah.
Electricity, 11.7% is up to, well, it's 15.5% now. So on the one hand, the government, the centrepiece of its budget is going to be energy and gas relief. That makes sense. But, the price caps have been extended. They might say, well, here's why, but are they working will be the other question on this as well.
Well, the Prime Minister argued today that, yes, they are working, but those within the gas sector I don't think are going to have a great deal of support when arguing against this compulsory code of conduct, which for our viewers who might not be aware, this final draft of a compulsory code has been put out for consultation today. As Tom alluded to, it includes a cap all the way out to 2025. It's gone further than many might have expected the government to, but given those numbers we're reporting today, those inflationary forces in the energy sector particularly, which is the biggest problem, as Ross touched on, as the Treasurer has mentioned many times, I can't see the government wavering or watering down that code of conduct much at all, Tom.
Kieran, Ross, thank you. I know there'll be plenty of analysis from both of you throughout the afternoon on that figure, which will have such a big bearing on what the RBA is doing and the economy in general.